Hello and welcome to this tutorial, and in this tutorial we are going to learn what are the different types of variables which we can use with JavaScript. So let's go ahead and create a basic variable which stores some value. So let's type var, let's name the variable as x and let's equate it to, let's say, 10. And now let's go ahead and just print out the value which is stored in this variable. So we type document dot write and then just simply print out the value of variable x. So we type x here, and now let's go ahead and save the code and let's run it on a web browser. So as you could see, the value 10 just popped up onto the web browser. Now what if we want to store a negative value into the variable x? That is, we want to store a negative integer in x. So let's say we give a minus sign over here, and then we save the program, and then we open up the web browser, and as we refresh this we get a minus 10 over here. So the same variable which was used to store positive integer values, it can also be used to store a negative value. Let's do one more experiment. Let's say we have a decimal value, so let's say 10.8675. now if we save the code and if we execute it on the browser, you could see we could also store a decimal value into the variable. Now what if we want to save a string into this variable x? So let's say we create a new variable. So let's say variable, let's say I want to store some name. So let's say variable name equals, and we want to store some value. Let's say we want to store the value as notepad. So we type notepad and we end the statement with a semicolon. And now instead of this x, we are going to display the value of a name. So we type name over here and we save the program and we open it up in the web browser. So you could see nothing popped up onto the web browser, and that is because you could declare an integer variable like this, but whenever you want to declare a string variable or the variable that stores string, you cannot simply declare a string like this. You need to include the string within double quotes so that the computer understands that this is a string and it is not an integer value. So now if I declare this in a double quotation marks and if I save it, and now if I run the program or if I check the output on the web browser, I'll get a string which says notepad. Also, there is a third type of variable which you could use, and that is called a boolean expression or a boolean variable. So in order to create a boolean variable, you simply type var, which is the variable keyword, and let's use another variable name, let's say y. And you could assign a boolean variable two kinds of values. The first kind of value which you could assign is true, and the second type of value which you could assign is false. So at a single time, a boolean variable could either be true or it could be false. Now let us change this name to y and let's see what displays up onto the browser. Now if we save the program and we execute it on the browser, it is going to display the value true, and if we change this to false, this is going to display the value false. And we don't need to mention this values into double quotes, and that is because this is not a string variable, but in this case this is a boolean variable. So the variable which we have used here is going to be the integer or decimal variable. So decimal variable. This type of variables are called as string variables. So we type string variables, and this is just for the sake of understanding so that you could understand different types of variables. And this variable right here is called as the boolean variable, which store boolean values like true or false. Now you could also store a null value into some variable. So let's say we create a fourth variable, let's name it as var, let's say b, and you could store a null value into it. Now null does not mean absolutely zero. Null means nothing. Now a zero has some value, but null means we don't have any type of value stored in the variable. So this is going to be the null variable. So this is the null variable, and now if we replace this y with b and if we save the code and execute it on a browser, we'll get the value of this variable to be null. So those are the type of variables which we have discussed. Initially we have the basic variable which stores the integer value. It could be also modified to store a decimal value, and it could also store a negative value. The next type of variable which we have learned is the string, and I think I misspelled the string variable, sorry for that. So this should be string, which is actually used in order to store a string, and you could also modify this to a longer string and it will save whatever string you wish to save. And the next type of variable is the Boolean variable, which either stores true or it stores false. And the final variable is the null variable, in which you could store null values. So these are the following values which you could store in a variable. So that's it for this tutorial, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Thank you.